Hey guys, so honestly, this is why I say I so love doing media with those who disagree with me, right? Because I notice it all the time. A lot of people don't understand what half the country is thinking, or majority of the country right now, or they don't even want to understand, right? They're just critical. And yeah, I love doing TV and media appearances with those who I know agree with me on a lot of issues, but it's almost better and more fun and more rewarding when you're on with folks who disagree and who don't understand where a good chunk of this country is coming from, and you get to let them know. And that's what I just got to do on ABC. We talked about public broadcasting, for example, NPR, PBS, and those that literally get funding from US taxpayers, and they get that funding and they use it to put out very skewed, biased media. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. And people are surprised that the American people don't like it. Maybe get to know your neighbor a little bit better. So take a listen, let me know your thoughts, and of course, I'll talk to you all soon.
All right, welcome back to our spotlight here. Senate Republicans are poised to move forward on a new $9 billion spending cut, which includes gutting programs like USAID as well as public broadcasting. And Republicans are moving to codify Elon Musk's Doge cuts into law. All Democrats are expected to oppose this legislation, meaning the majority leader, John Thune, can really only afford to lose 3 Republican votes in order to pass this bill. Slim margins as always. I want to bring back my panel here. John, Elizabeth, Julie, and Mike. And again, we'll sort of go through and do this round robin. John, what do you make of all of this, and do you think it's going to get through?
Well, first of all, I got to say, I have a show on PBS called Balancing Act. I'm a Republican, and I examine both sides of an issue. I bring in people from both sides, and we talk about it. Take a look what's on PBS. All kinds of great stuff that is not in any way, shape, or form partisan. So, again, I think this administration is taking a sledgehammer when a scalpel will do. By that, I mean, pinpoint the ones you have problems with and don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. There's a lot of good programming on PBS.
On that, thank you for plugging another network and another show. But on that note, Julie, sort of one of the dissenting Republicans, Lisa Murkowski, said to NPR, look, if there's bias, there, fix the bias, don't cut the funding.
Right.
Well, listen. And John, you know this, the bias is in the fact that it is balanced. They don't want balance. They want propaganda, and they want MAGA propaganda. That's all there is to it. But look, the bigger problem here is, and I'd love to hear this from John, I mean, these are members of Congress and members of the Senate who appropriated money. And now it's being rescinded. I mean, by the White House, effectively. They're basically completely abdicating their power of the purse to another supposedly co-equal branch of government. But now this co-equal branch has taken over the legislative branch. So I don't understand how anybody with any shred of dignity who was elected to the Senate could vote for this, whether it's Donald Trump or Barack Obama or Joe Biden or anybody. I mean, have some pride. You're a member of Congress. You have the power of the purse. Stick to it.
Well, what are your thoughts on that, though, Elizabeth? Because I do think there are some, certainly hardline Republicans, that are finding some pride in trying to cut the funding. And I think they would push back. And in some cases, they do feel like there is bias in some of those broadcasts.
I know that they do. I've talked to a lot of these officials, and I've also talked to a lot of their voters, right? I think they find pride in doing their job, and that's doing what the people elected them to do. I know a lot of people in our country that think, maybe apart from John's show, that there is a lot of liberal bias on PBS and on these networks. And I mean, if you think about how many hundreds of millions of dollars are funneled every single year to NPR and PBS and these networks, which a good chunk of the American people believe showcase their liberal bias, they're allowed to say, look, we don't want our tax dollars being pushed to subsidize this partisan media. They're allowed to say that. And I think those that are elected to represent those people have an important decision to make. Yes, they might be siding with this White House and this president, but they might also be siding with the people who put them in the jobs and positions of power that they're in, because a lot of American people have a serious problem with these media companies.
Mike Muse, what's your take?
Yeah, I think that we're getting so lost into this national broadcast and the network of the show, but we're losing the fact that PBS is the local broadcasting. It's for the local news network. I am a champion of local news. I'm a champion of local newspapers. Local is what really holds local officials accountable. Local news is one of the biggest guardrails that protects our democracy. And we're getting lost in a 30,000-foot aspect of it, not really realizing that PBS is more so for the local level. I can't tell you the amount of times I've watched the local broadcasts here within New York City. In my hometown, growing up in Lansing, Michigan, it touched the bedrock of the local community. They do so much cultural awareness. They do so much deep dives into the local history of different cities. They do so much ways, and we're introducing traditional media and larger media corporations just can't do or may not have the interest in it. They also, too, are part of the emergency broadcast that alerts us when emergencies are happening. And since John plugs his show, I'm plugging my show on Sirius XM, where I get callers. And a caller called up and asked me, how does he get into television? I literally recommended him to go to his local broadcasting affiliate to figure out there's ways he can intern, figure out ways he can pitch a show, figure out ways he can help produce. Where can someone learn like that? At the local level. That's really what PBS is. It's not this other thing that we keep debating about. We're getting lost here, and that's unfortunate.
I want you to know that that's what I did, by the way. That's how I started, and that's why I know how to record the correct way. John, Elizabeth, Julie, and Mike, thank you so much.